Shabbat Shalom. This week's Torah reading is Parashat Emor, a Torah reading that focuses on the Kohanim, on the priests who officiated in the Mishkan, the desert tabernacle, and in the first temple and second temple in Jerusalem. These Kohanim had a very important role to play. Their role, of course, was officiating at the sacrifices, the ritual sacrifices, mostly animal sacrifices, that they would be the ones to actually slaughter the animals. The Torah teaches us in Parashat Emor that these Kohanim, who we've been learning about throughout the book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, not only have special responsibilities, but they also have special rules and restrictions put upon them, restrictions about who they're allowed to mourn and how, who they're allowed to marry and how. All kinds of restrictions on themselves that will help them attain or maintain a certain level of holiness, a certain level of ritual purity, enabling them to do this very important job, not only for themselves, for their families, but for the whole Israelite nation. One of the verses in the Torah reading that modern people, myself included, usually find very difficult to listen to is the following verse from Leviticus 21, verses 16 and 17. Vayidaber Adonai Moshe lemor. God said to Moses, Daber laHaron lemor, speak to Aaron and say, Ish mizaracha ledorotam asher yevo mum, any one of your descendants who will have a defect, something wrong with his body, should not be the one to come close to the altar to offer a sacrifice. The whole idea of this verse, that certain children of Aaron or grandchildren or great-grandchildren who have a physical defect, they have something, a disability, something, even using the word defect is a problem. The idea that those people would be restricted from, prevented from offering a sacrifice is difficult to think of in any way except offensive. In our world, we focus on inclusion. We focus on the idea that each human being matters an infinite amount, regardless of what I'm able to do physically, regardless of my mental capacity, just simply because I exist and I'm a human being. We care about the animals. We care about the world at large. And yet this verse is saying you cannot offer a sacrifice to God if you have a certain kind of physical disability or defect or something wrong. So how do we understand it? How do we understand this in a way that is not offensive, but is in fact enlightening to our way of life and to how we think about the world? I think we can see it this way. These priests, these Kohanim, when they were in the tabernacle, when they were offering a sacrifice, they were not representing humanity to God. It's the exact opposite. They were representing God to humanity. They took this animal that belonged to someone else, to a member of the Israelite community. They took it and they understood that they were representing God here when they sacrificed this animal. When they offered it up to God, they were the conduit through which this animal could rise up and could be an essential part of this person's religious life. Their perfection that was needed, their physical perfection, was not to say anything about the human beings. It was instead to say something about the tabernacle and the perfection that is God. The human beings who brought the sacrifices were just like us. They were human beings with all the imperfections that we have. And that, I think, gets to the heart of the matter. Many people today, they focus on what is imperfect. They focus on what is missing. They think about and they wish for and they pray for something that is unattainable. What is that thing that is unattainable? It's the perfect job. It's the perfect relationship that will never have any difficulties or arguments. It is a perfect view of who I am in whatever way that I think is perfect. The problem is that perfection, when it comes to human beings, is not possible. Perfection is just out of the question, so that shouldn't be our goal. But our goal should be to be the best version of ourselves we can, and understanding along the way that it is the journey that helps us become better. It is the journey from where we are to where we could be that helps us become the best version of ourselves. Listen to these words by Rav Yosef Soloveitchik. When God created the world, he provided an opportunity for the work of his hands, human beings, to participate in his creation. The Creator, as it were, impaired reality in order that mortal man could repair its flaws and perfect it. For Rav Soloveitchik, human beings were put here to perfect God's world. The journey of helping us perfect it is what makes us the best versions of ourselves that we can be. And I hope as we think about the Kohanim, the perfection that they represented and the imperfect journey that we represent, we can better appreciate ourselves, perfection, problems, and issues and defects and all. Shabbat Shalom.